My name is Maria, and I'm 26 years old. I live in a small town near the sea. Every morning I wake up and hear the sound of waves hitting the rocks. It is a soft sound, like a whisper from the ocean, saying, "Good morning, Maria." But my heart's not as calm as the sea looks. For many months, one chair in my small kitchen has stayed empty. That chair once belonged to my father. He was not only my father, he was my teacher, my friend, and the reason I always smiled. When I was a child, he would sit on that same wooden chair, drinking his coffee and telling me stories about life. He said, "Maria, every person has a chair in their heart. Sometimes it is full of love, sometimes it is empty. We must learn to fill it again when it becomes empty." At that time, I never understood his words, but now, after he passed away, I finally do. That morning, I looked at the empty chair and whispered, "Papa, I miss you." The sun entered the window and touched the chair. It almost looked like someone invisible was sitting there. I smiled sadly and began to make breakfast, 2 cups of coffee, as if he were still here. While I was stirring sugar, my mother came into the kitchen. Her face looked tired, but her eyes were kind. "Maria," she said softly, "you still make 2 cups every day?" I nodded. "Yes, Mama, I can't stop." "It feels like he will come back one day and ask for his cup." She touched my shoulder. "It is okay, my dear. Son love never leaves, but you must also live your own life." I looked outside. The little street was waking up. A neighbor was washing his car, a child was running with his school bag, and an old woman was feeding birds. Life continued. Only in our kitchen, time had stopped. Later that day, I went to my small job at the local bookstore. I liked working there because books made me feel close to people again. Stories were full of voices, even when no one was around. My boss, Mr. David, was a kind man in his 50s. He smiled at me and said, "Maria, the new English books arrived. Would you please put them on the shelf?" "Yes, of course," I said. While I worked, I saw a young man enter the store. He looked about my age, wearing glasses and holding a notebook. He asked shyly, "Excuse me, do you have stories for learning English?" I smiled. "Yes, we do. Follow me." We walked to the corner shelf. I handed him a small book called Love Letters from the Sea. He smiled when he read the title. "That sounds beautiful. I'm Daniel," he said. "I'm Maria," I replied. "Nice to meet you." He looked at the window where the sea was visible in the distance. "I just moved to this town. I want to learn English better and maybe write my own stories one day." "Really?" I asked with surprise. "I love stories too." That small conversation made me feel something new, a small light in my heart. For many months I had felt heavy, sad, and alone. But now, a simple talk about books made me feel alive again. Before he left, Daniel said, "Maybe next time we can read together. It's easier to learn with a friend." I smiled. "Yes, maybe we can." That night, I came home and told my mother about him. She smiled with quiet happiness. "It's good to see you talking to new people," she said. "Your father would be happy." I looked again at the empty chair and imagined my father smiling. "Papa," I whispered, "maybe life is giving me a new story." Days turned into weeks. Daniel came to the bookstore often. Sometimes we read together after work. He struggled with some English words, and I helped him pronounce them. Sometimes I made mistakes too, and we laughed together. One evening, it began to rain heavily. The sound of rain on the roof was loud but peaceful. Daniel said, "Maria, why do you always wear that little necklace with a wooden chair shape?" I touched it. My father made it for me. He said this chair is a reminder to keep a seat for hope, even when people leave. "That's beautiful," he said. "Your father must have been special." "He was," I said quietly. When the rain stopped, Daniel offered to walk me home. On the way, he shared stories about his life. He had lost his mother when he was 16, and he moved around a lot. I listened carefully. We both understood loss, though in different ways. When we reached my gate, I said, "Thank you for walking with me." He smiled. "Thank you for listening." After that night, we started spending more time together. Sometimes we met at the cafe near the beach. Sometimes we sat on the rocks and watched the sea. Slowly, that empty space in my heart began to fill again, not because I forgot my father, but because I was learning to live with the love he left behind. One Sunday morning, my mother was cleaning the kitchen. She looked at the empty chair and said, "Maria, maybe it's time to give this chair to someone who needs it." I looked surprised. "But this is Papa's chair." "Yes," she said softly, "but your father always wanted his chair to be for everyone. Maybe you can use it to teach someone, to share his stories." I thought about Daniel and smiled. Maybe I can. That afternoon, I invited Daniel to our house for tea. When he came in, he looked at the empty chair and asked, "Is this where your father used to sit?" "Yes," I said. "Would you like to sit there today?" He hesitated. "Are you sure?" I nodded. He would like that. Daniel sat down gently, as if afraid to break something sacred. We talked, laughed, and shared stories. My mother watched us quietly with a warm smile. The chair no longer looked lonely. It looked alive again. As the sun set, Daniel said, "Maria, you know, this chair feels special. It's like it remembers love." I smiled. "It does. And now it remembers friendship too." That night, when everyone slept, I sat alone and wrote in my diary, "The empty chair is no longer empty. It holds the spirit of everyone I love." Weeks passed. Daniel and I became very close friends. We continued to learn English together. Sometimes we practiced writing small stories about kindness, forgiveness, and dreams. We wanted to publish a small book one day, maybe for children. One evening, Daniel said, "Maria, can I tell you something?" "Of course," I said. He looked nervous. "I got a job offer in another city. It's a teaching job, but I don't know if I should take it." My heart dropped a little. I didn't want him to go, but I also knew dreams were important. I said, "You should follow your heart. That's what my father always told me." He looked at me and smiled sadly. "Then I think I'll go, but I'll write to you every week." "I'll be waiting," I said softly. That night, I sat beside the chair again. The sea wind moved the curtains, and I whispered, "Papa, he is leaving, but it's okay. I learned from you that love doesn't mean keeping someone. It means letting them grow." When Daniel left a week later, he gave me a small letter. "Don't open it now," he said. "Open it when you miss me the most." I watched him walk away with his bag. The road looked long, the sky was blue, and the chair in my kitchen waited silently again. Days passed slowly. I still worked at the bookstore, still helped customers, still smiled. But in the quiet evenings, when I saw the empty chair, My eyes filled with tears again. I wanted to open Daniel's letter, but I waited. One rainy evening, when loneliness felt heavy, I finally opened it. The letter said, "Dear Maria, you taught me that even empty chairs can tell stories. You gave me friendship, peace, and the courage to believe again. I will come back one day, and when I do, I hope your chair still has a place for me, Daniel." Tears fell on the paper, but they were gentle tears, not full of pain. I held the letter close and whispered, "The chair is waiting." Months turned into seasons. The bookstore got busier. I started a small English reading club every Saturday, and guess what? I used my father's chair for the students. Every new reader sat there once, and I told them, "This chair is for love and learning." One day, during our reading club, a familiar voice said from behind, "Is this seat taken?" I turned, and my heart almost stopped. It was Daniel. He looked a little older, his eyes shining. "Daniel!" I cried. He smiled. "I told you I would come back." I couldn't speak for a moment. Then I said, "Your chair was waiting." He sat down and everyone clapped, not understanding the deep meaning. But I did. The empty chair was now full again, not just with a person, but with memories, hope, and endless love. That night, when everyone left, I looked at the chair and whispered, "Papa, the story continues."